He posted a video. You saw a little bit of it earlier. Let's have a listen to more.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there.
Claire, good or bad thing?
It's brilliant. Oh. It's brilliant for a range of reasons. I mean, first of all, because you always were made to feel as though you were going mad when you said there is censorship on social media platforms and the fact checkers are biased and they've got particular ideological commitment to not allowing you to say, for example, there are only two sexes or be gender critical, or anybody who might say massive immigration is a problem is going to get shadow banned, all of these things. Anyway, everybody said, oh, God, you know, paranoid, you know what I mean? And he comes on and says, actually, we were doing all those things. You're right. We were biased. We were politically driven, and we're changing it. And secondly, because the most important thing is, in a democracy, for me, free speech is the core. It's the public square. I want free speech. And I don't, by the way, mean, oh, my hero. I'm just pleased that somebody else has agreed that free speech is now slightly more in vogue this week.
Do you agree with all that?
To an extent, but not fully. So.
Do we need independent fact checkers?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, for sure.
But
well,
who are they?
Well, that's the key question, right? And whether or not Facebook is the right, Meta, I should say now, is the right person to mark its own homework, absolutely not. These platforms want to behave as if they are the public square, the home of debate, when in actual fact they are ginormous multinational corporations that surveil their users, extract data from them, and profit from it. So you can't have it both ways, as much as Mark Zuckerberg would like it to, and it's very much him reacting to the election of Donald Trump, right? He is very self-interested, and in the space of 4 years, he's gone from banning him from his platforms to now saying, actually, we're going to sack 40,000 content moderators from our staff. So I wouldn't hold him up as a paragon of virtue or sort of a moral guiding light.
And neither would I.
But absolutely, content that gets posted on social media, it requires regulation. 100% it does. It cannot be a free-for-all, and we cannot have free speech absolutism for relatively obvious reasons.
Right. What happened to the sovereign individual?
Oh, very good.
I'm not necessarily the biggest advocate or fan of the sovereign individual, but nonetheless, look, I think within reason, you should be able to say what you want. For example, in light of the riots over the summer, I wasn't that hot on people with sort of 5 followers on Facebook being sent to prison for things that they'd written on Facebook. I thought that was a dramatic overreach. When it comes to people like Elon Musk, who are the most followed people on his platform, posting the things that he has been posting since the beginning of this year, it becomes a very different issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, go on, James.
Well, I was just going to say, what we're not talking about is the algorithm at the heart of social media. We're talking here about content. I've got a lot of sympathy for what Claire was just saying about lifting a lid on what the content moderators are doing. But it's the rabbit hole problem that hasn't been addressed. It is the escalation of dangerous and exciting content that takes people into extreme behaviours. That's really the toxic element of these platforms, and that itself needs to be regulated. Just talking about the content itself can be a bit of a distraction. So I'm a bit disappointed that Zuckerberg hasn't addressed the toxic nature of the engine at the heart of his machine.
Right. I mean, is he right, though, that European laws, including our own Online Safety Act, institutionalises censorship and makes it difficult to build anything innovative?
I think that's a very tough assessment. So in some ways, it's protecting the sharing of data, which is going to be the foundations for the AI revolution, because if people don't trust these platforms and if they ultimately fall out of love with them, then they won't exist any longer. So I think that there are two sides of that coin.
Is it frightening, not having these independent fact-checkers?
Well, I think I don't really see that fact-checkers are undermining of freedom of expression. I think people are free to say that a triangle has 4 sides, but I would quite like a fact-checker to point out that triangles have 3 sides. But I'm a parent of 3 young children, and the thing that's most important for me is that children can access the internet safely, and I'm really pleased that we have the Online Safety Act, which will be coming into force from the spring, because I want to ensure.
16th of January.
Well, they've got different clauses coming at different times, but I think what is really important is that platforms like Meta are forced to take things down when they are harmful to our children.
Well, can I just say then
Yes.
on the Musk, because I know we've seen, most of us, some of the comments and the tweets. I mean, I'll just show you a few. Elon Musk, richest man in the world, and so on and so forth. Starmer was complicit in the rape of Britain when he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service for 6 years. He must go, and he must face charges for his complicity in the worst mass crime in the history of Britain. Should the government take him on? I know he came out quite firmly, Keir Starmer, at the beginning of the week. Rode back a little bit yesterday, I thought, in Prime Minister's questions in terms of the tone in addressing the sort of subject around this, and who may or may not be supporting what Elon Musk is alluding to. But should they take him on? Should they, ban it? Should they be much, much tougher or not?
I think Elon Musk has his own platform. I don't think we need to amplify it here particularly, but I do think that Keir Starmer was absolutely right to set the record straight.
Right. I mean, the thing is, what is the truth, though, Claire? Because you say you want people to be able to discuss things openly without fear or favour. But when does it cross the line into hate speech, or it's just plain wrong?
So the thing that you've got to acknowledge is that under Meta, under Zuckerberg, right, so I'm not trying to give him any glory, we now know that, for example, the Biden administration interfered in facts, using fact checkers, which were accused of disinformation, of suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story and the Wuhan lab leak theories, both of which now everybody says, oh, really sorry, and so on. The reason I'm saying that is because the idea that if you don't like fact checkers, you don't like facts, just want to put that to bed.
Yeah, but
Secondly,
Elon Musk owns a whole social media, and he's putting out these things.
Ironically, Elon Musk's rather manic tweets, I'm not allowed to say that, he'd probably do me, but anyway, Elon Musk's postings are revealing about Elon Musk, as are many people's posts. The point about the hate speech thing is, when you were talking about the grooming gang, just not to go on to that, but I find it offensive and pretty hateful that because I have been talking about that issue for some time and was calling for inquiry, that I get told by the Prime Minister of the country that I live in that I'm hanging on the coattails of the far right. I mean, what's that about? That was what he said because I heard him say it. And therefore, I'd say, when you say hate speech, the thing that we've got there is it's subjective. Because what is called hate, you can kind of say, oh, we all know what we mean. But in fact, hate speech has been used to describe people who have, for example, gender-critical views. And that most frequently, people like Kathleen Stark have been called a bigot and a hate monger because of her views.
Right, well, Catherine, what do you say about Claire feeling offended, let's put it that way, about, you know what I mean, about Keir Starmer saying that she's hanging on, her and others are hanging on the coattails of right-wing, far right activism,
I think that the frustration that was felt certainly in Parliament by some yesterday was that we had a really important bill that was actually protecting children. If this is what we're going, that we're actually protecting children, and that there was a wrecking amendment that would have stopped what was going to happen.
And also, you had a TikTok video that you brought out last week, a Labour Party TikTok video, in which first of all we had these gross-looking animals declaring the success of your government, and then we discover that the lyrics of the song that was playing throughout were the most vile, misogynistic. I mean, you should read them.
And I think that was why
Portuguese.
Which is why it was apologised for. It was a mistake, and it was apologised for.
It was a mistake. And that's what happens on social media. People make mistakes all the time, and very often they apologise. I just don't think you should be dragged either to prison or kicked off social media. Well, you made a mistake, you apologise and move on.
What about if you lie? What about if you lie?
Well, as it happens...
Keir Starmer is complicit, that's what he said.
As far as I'm concerned, part of the public square and part of the responsibility is that you constantly take on people you think are lying. The problem I've got is that, and I agree, of course, it's frustrating. It's just that we can't have a truth finder. You know what it's like.
But you should be allowed to lie, Claire. You're saying it's OK to lie.
I'm saying people do lie. I'm saying people do lie all the time about things. Of course, I don't agree with that. I'm an Enlightenment believer in reason, for goodness sake.
But you're saying that the sort of the town square should be the one that holds...
No, I'm asking you how you deal with it. Because what I'm suggesting to you is that if we have a Ministry of Truth with appointed people saying this is a lie and this isn't a lie, apart from in there are some very clear instances where it's clear. There are many instances where it's murky. It's often to do with opinion.
Yes.
It's often to do with bias. And therefore, I think that we have to grow up now with this new tool that is both a tyranny and a liberation. That's social media, and learn how to deal with it. I don't want Meta or the government appointing who decides what.
Yeah, but to go back to
Ollie's
Ollie's first point, which is it's fascinating to see these huge, wealthy individuals, owners of social media platforms who have these fact checkers, and now Donald Trump is coming to the White House shortly. They've changed their tune and moved. What does that say about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg?
Elections matter. Right,
Yeah.
I think we were sort of.
We used to say it didn't matter and that they were more important.
Exactly, and you know, all of this, Elon Musk cozying up to Trump, quite literally, actually, sort of following him around like a lost dog around Mar-a-Lago. You know, are they politically aligned? No, I think Elon Musk sort of wakes up, decides what he thinks about something, and fires out 140 characters, and off he goes. Look at the government contract that SpaceX is entitled to, that Tesla is participating in. He is the world's richest man for a reason. And I genuinely don't think it is that deep. When you look at people like him, when you look at people like Zuckerberg, they are acting in their own self-interest, enriching themselves. It is not because they've suddenly become free speech advocates.
No, but can our government or European governments take on the Elon Musks of this world in the way the Brazilian government did successfully in their case and won? But can our government do that?
They should try to. Yeah, for sure.
You should.
Yeah.
So if they say things like Elon Musk, we've shown it already this week, Jess Phillips, who's a minister in the government, is a rape genocide apologist. Should they take it on?
Yeah, I think they should take it on. Yeah, I think increasingly, if we wanted to sort of make it about geopolitics for a second, I think the sort of the end of history, post-90s moment where it looked like America was sort of the hegemonic power and we were all just going to get in line, I think that's changing, right? I think we're increasingly in a multipolar world where a rising China, a bearish Russia, and an increasingly isolationist United States, which, by the way, when I say isolationist, possibly withdrawing from us, from partnership with Europe, possibly from NATO. Don't want to sort of split anyone too much there. But nonetheless, these people aren't necessarily our friends. And whilst we can sort of get a bit down on ourselves in this country, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is still quite a powerful person.
But it's also the case that I just want to clarify something important, which is that I don't care about Elon Musk or the person who runs Meta or these multi-billionaires. What I care about is freedom of expression. And we have a Prime Minister who doesn't value that as much as they say they do. That's what I'm saying. He won't say that, right? So for me, if we're going to have this nation state and sovereignty and make these decisions on our own, which of course I rather like, then I would like free speech and freedom of expression to be at the heart of it. And
the problem with limits. You accept it has limits, though, Claire?
Very limited. Very limited. I'm a free speech absolutist. On children, by the way, I just want to point out, the Free Speech Act, the Online Safety Act was brought in the name of protecting children. Only about 20% of the Act is dedicated to that. The rest of it, I would say, is dedicated to incursions into the freedom of expression and freedom of speech of adults. And that's where I get...
Where are your...
Children?
No, that's another argument.
Well, I think it's a good point on protecting children, Claire, but we're going to have a battle with Elon Musk shortly on Twitter, because we have brought in age verification on pornography in the UK. That's going to be enforced very, very soon. And there's a huge amount of pornographic filth on Twitter, which they have not taken down. Britain will require Twitter to either put in an age verification bar or to close it down in the UK full stop. That's going to be a really interesting confrontation and a time when the UK government does have to go toe-to-toe with the world's richest man.
Catherine?
I think it is really important that we also listen to young people on this. Young Minds, which is a mental health charity, surveyed young people, and 89% agreed that social media can help drive harmful behaviours, and we have absolutely seen that. And whether it's self-harm or eating disorders or suicide, we of course need to protect children.
But it's also the 10th anniversary of the Charlie Hebdo massacre, in which people were murdered, slaughtered, in fact, in the Paris offices of that satirical magazine by Islamists who said, radical Islamists, who said that they had hate speech on the cover of their magazine because of the depiction of the Prophet Muhammad in a satirical fashion. What I'm trying to say to you is we want those young people to grow up also to know that it's important to defend the right to lampoon, satirise. That's the world we want them to grow into as well.
All right. We're going to talk about the weather. It's actually bright outside. We love to talk